Hello again. Thanks for visiting. This week someone asked me a straightforward question that took me by surprise. The question was, who are you? Isn't it funny how a simple question like that can get you thinking all week long? The simple answer would have been, I'm Ian Currey. But then, being me, I could never just give my name in an answer to a question like that. Now, could I? This is another episode of Thinking Out Loud. Come on, let me tell you what I think. What a lovely time of year it is, isn't it? I love autumn. Perhaps it's because there's an excuse to drink hot chocolate and eat some of those yummy things that seem to arrive only at this time of year. You know, spiced cookies and apple pie with cinnamon, or perhaps if you're in America, ham and turkey. Thanksgiving is a wonderful holiday that hasn't been as affected by commercialization as much as most other holidays. Despite enjoying looking at them, I'm not so keen on cleaning up all those leaves out there, but do love watching them fall from the trees. Once they're on the ground, I try to ignore them for a while, but then, of course, what little grass is left out there would die under the leaves, I expect. This time of year, of course, is the busiest time for people to be flying too. Now, I have no idea how I managed to have an extra day off this week, but somehow that happened. And despite there being such a need for aircraft crew, I've been enjoying the extra time looking out of the window at all the leaves falling off the trees and the autumn colors, and generally enjoying doing nothing in particular. But earlier in the week, I was at work, and we'd prepared an aircraft for its long trip across the country. We'd done all our checks and loaded everything we needed, and we were just waiting for the peace and quiet to be broken by a couple of hundred passengers who'd been patiently waiting to board when another crew showed up. "Who are you?" I was asked by the new flight leader. Of course, they were not expecting me and my crew to be on their aircraft. Now, I could have just said, I'm Ian Currey, but by now you will know that that would have been too simple. Instead, I said, well, I'm Orville, and my colleague here is Wilbur. We're the Wright brothers, back from the dead. We've come to see how much you've learned since we first flew in 1903. Now, don't mess it up. Perhaps my name would have been more appropriate and probably more helpful. It turned out that the new crew were on the wrong aircraft and soon left to find their aircraft, which was parked right next to ours, of course. Their question, though, made me wonder, well, who did they think I was? I mean, I was dressed in an airline uniform, my name was on my badge, and I was right where you'd expect an aircraft crew to be, on an aircraft. But I've never liked answering that "who are you" question by telling people what I do. It's true that our jobs sometimes do define us, but should they? Is what we do who we are? Is that why when we lose a job or change jobs, we sometimes get so stressed? Our identity is being messed with or something. Who are you? Well, you could define yourself by relationships or by your connections to your family, couldn't you? For example, I'm the son of, I'm the brother of, I'm the husband of, and so on. You could even say, I'm the friend of. Well, I suppose. But those things too are sort of temporary sometimes, aren't they? Just as defining yourself by the job that you're doing at the moment causes stress when you no longer have that job, when relationships change or family members are no longer around, does that mean our identity changes somehow? Have you ever heard someone say, "My body is my temple"? It's a mixed up expression, and if you don't know where it comes from or what it really means, it can be a bit strange, can't it? The phrase comes from something that Paul said. Don't you realize that all of you together are the temple of God, and that the Spirit of God lives in you? For God's temple is holy, and you are that temple. Well, that sort of helps answer the "who are you" question, I suppose. But I was surprised to see those few words, "all of you together," there. I don't think I'd noticed that before. That sort of says together, in community, we are a temple. Or I suppose you could say church these days, and it might be better understood. So while that's a way of saying don't fill your lives up with junk because God wants to be in there, that isn't really helping with the "who are you" question, is it? Rather than decide the question was just too much trouble and leave it as being Orville or Wilbur again next time I was asked a silly question, I had another look, and this time I found one of my favourite psalms. The psalm starts off by answering our question as if God had asked it. "O Lord, you have examined my heart and know everything about me. You know when I sit down or stand up. You know my thoughts even when I'm far away." And I love this next part. "You see me when I travel and when I rest at home. You know everything I do. You know what I'm going to say even before I say it, Lord." You can read the rest of the psalm later. There are a lot of things to think about in it for sure. We've talked about being made in God's image a few times, haven't we? There's a couple of sentences in this psalm that talk about how we were made too. "You made all the delicate inner parts of my body and knit me together in my mother's womb." Then there's this lovely section that I don't think had popped out at me before in quite the way it did when I read it this week. "Thank you for making me so wonderfully complex. Your workmanship is marvelous." How well I know it. The thank you part there is deep, isn't it? There, the writer is thanking God for the amazing way he has been made. And as we read this all these years later, that's still something important. Instead of wondering if who we are is affected by something as simple as a new job, how about thanking God for the amazing way he has designed us? The sense of humor, the fun, the way we think and act, the things we like and perhaps dislike, the way we interact with others, and so on. Who are you? Or perhaps a rather nice answer might be, I'm who God made me to be. On the other hand, being Orville or Wilbur once in a while is a little bit of fun too. Until next time, goodbye.